we got to talk about this. And it is about when Caitlin Clark comes back to the team. I think there are genuinely people that have said that that have implied that Caitlin Clark's actually okay, that she's going through her workouts, and that the reason why she's not at practice is because it's to avoid the media. I don't think that's the case, but there's a big but here. I do feel like Caitlin Clark absolutely needs to avoid the media if she can. When Caitlin Clark is ready to go, I feel like avoiding the media is something that is important. Like, I genuinely do believe that Caitlin Clark getting asked to solve the world's racism crisis is not going to help her. It's not going to help anyone. It's not going to help any of the players that are, let's be real, like victims of the online abuse. It's not going to help Caitlin Clark. It's not going to do anything except for kind of mentally demoralize a 24-year-old. And unfortunately, that's really what they care about. There's a group of people that's their goal. Their goal is to, again, completely and utterly demoralize for lack of a better word, like a young adult. And I feel like the media, who, let's be real, they're in the clicks business. They're all in the clicks business. And if I'm being honest, so am I. So, like, I can't sit here and say, obviously being in the clicks business, that nobody, I hope nobody asks Caitlin anything from a, monetary standpoint. Yeah, that would be great. From a human standpoint, you just don't want a player like a Caitlin Clark to have to go, or per human like Caitlin Clark, to have to go through this shit. I think if I'm the Indiana Fever, I make sure as hell the first time she talks to the media is to the Fever media. And that, they do have some control over Chloe. They have some control over kind of their beat writers. And they just need to control the first question that Caitlin's asked. Because everybody knows Caitlin Clark is going to answer the question perfectly. The problem is, if the question that she's asked is framed in a way that she's being asked to apologize to Alyssa Thomas, and people deem that she has gone out and apologized to, for lack of a better way of describing it, the person who fought her, that tried to hurt her, it's going to start all this again. So I think the Fever need to be really, 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 really careful with all of this. I think they need to be extremely careful when it comes down to it, because there's a way Caitlin's gonna, no matter what Caitlin gets asked, she's gonna answer it the same way. She's gonna answer it nearly perfectly. But you open up another can of worms if the first question that she's asked is a kind of instigating question that is implying that she is a racist, or she has festered a group of racists around her. And that's unfair to her. It's unfair to her team. And it's unfair to the millions of, especially game-going Fever fans, that are some of the best fans in the league. It is the millions and millions of people that watch every Caitlin Clark game. It's unfair to them. And I think there has to be control. If you're the Indiana Fever, who have done, I think they did a really bad job in her rookie year about just kind of sending her to the wolves with the media. I do feel like now we're at the stage where they've kind of almost shielded her from that as much as possible. And I do feel like they've done a good job of that. But shielding her entirely from the media is not going to work at this stage. This is just going to keep spiraling. And some people are like, Caitlin needs to have a press conference. And I'm like, that's not going to do anything. And again, the Fever need to be really careful. The league needs to be really careful with this whole Caitlin Clark situation, because it is extremely, extremely sensitive. Because why? If the optics of this situation are that Caitlin Clark is apologizing to Alyssa Thomas. Because let's be very clear, or Caitlin Clark is making herself out as the aggressor and Alyssa Thomas as the victim, when Alyssa Thomas, let's be very clear, tried the cheap shot Caitlin, missed, then did cheap shot Caitlin, then cheap shot Caitlin again, and then attempted a cheap shot Caitlin a third time, but Caitlin dodged it. Then this becomes a really, really, really awkward situation, because it gets worse. The whole time, people are going to be like, oh yeah, you know, Caitlin's only saying this, and you're putting a whole bunch of abuse towards Caitlin Clark. And if this is done wrong, not only is it going to continue the abuse towards other players, but it's also going to channel all of that towards Caitlin Clark herself. Because I think every single person knows that whatever Caitlin is asked, her answer is going to be the exact same thing. Nobody deserves the hate. Nobody deserves this hate online. Like the answer she's given 100 times. We all know that's going to be, the answer. But the problem is now, with Caitlin being gone for so long, her being injured, her not playing a basketball game for 10 days, potentially, maybe more. Unfortunately, there's no WNBA games at all now. There's no news stories. There's no stories at all. It's we're now at the stage where obviously Caitlin Clark has just not been in the light, and has been kind of shielded from that. Well, this is getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. But this can still get even worse. This can still get worse. Because it doesn't even matter what Caitlin Clark says, because we saw it with the Steph White thing. I don't think what Steph White said was wrong, but Steph White's ignored everything every single Indiana Fever player has received. And that online hate applies to her team as well. And Steph White dismissed it towards her team to specifically say, oh, it's not fair to Alyssa Thomas. Yeah, she's not wrong. It's not fair to Alyssa Thomas, but it's also not fair to Maisha Hines-Allen, who allegedly was the victim of a racial insult by Alyssa Thomas herself. Like, none of it's right. None of it is right. But yeah, it's going to be very, very tough. And I'm going to be real. Caitlin Clark needs to be in a situation where she is avoiding the media at all costs. I think Caitlin Clark should completely avoid the media. And I feel like, as well, that Caitlin Clark should be... like, the Fever need to make, for lack of a better word, like, not make Caitlin Clark speak, because she can say what she wants to say, but just make sure that she's not being baited into saying something that she doesn't want to say. Or, even worse, make sure that she is not being hit with leading questions, assuming that she is the worst thing in the league, and be basically almost being made to apologize for being herself. Because again, if that happens, no matter what Caitlin Clark says, the dumbass racists are going to double and triple and quadruple down in attacking everybody. And it's never going to stop. The only way to get this to stop is to have a bigger story out there. There's no way. And to, again, get players better equipped with dealing with this. It is a dangerous narrative for everyone involved, especially Caitlin Clark, for Caitlin to be seen as the villain, or as the reason why everything's wrong with the league. And I do feel like the WNBA are this close to saying that themselves. The damn higher-ups in the league are this close to essentially saying, we want Caitlin gone. And that has been a narrative from Atro. A lot of people feel like that is the narrative. And based on how the question is asked to Caitlin Clark, you can tell whether or not that is the way it's heading. So yeah, a very interesting situation next time Caitlin steps in front of a microphone. I think the Indiana Fever need to control this situation. This is something they can do. The Indiana Fever can't do much to stop Caitlin Clark hate, but this is something they can do. They can control the environment in which Caitlin Clark has to speak up about this, because she has to answer this question. It's unfortunate she has to answer this question. But if it's an environment where there's no blame being put on her, where she can make a generic statement about how, online hate is bad, which is obviously true. Yeah, it's a big thing. But anyway, see you guys.